You know that moment when you hit record, listen back, and the drums sound thin? Yeah, we've all been there. In this video, I'll walk you through how to turn that weak kit into a massive, fat drum sound that actually moves air. Here's how. Plato was once quoted in saying, "The beginning is the most important part of the work." And this is something that is definitely true when recording. I think it's also something that's greatly overlooked nowadays. Very often the slogan is, "We'll fix it in post." But to make your lives easier, definitely try and sort things out right at the beginning, at the source. What does that mean? Get a good drummer. Get a good drum kit. Tune that drum kit properly. And then the list, it moves on from there. We go into microphones, into preamps, etc., etc. But if you can get the instrument that you're recording, in this case drums, to sound the way you want to before doing any processing, 90% of the battle has already been won. So as you can see here, I'm trying my best to tune the kit and get the sound I'm looking for. I was looking for a very low, thumpy sound. I achieved it on most parts of the kit. I did battle with Tom 1, Tom 2 and 3. I was happy with the kick. I was happy with acoustically, so with my ears in the room it sounded fine, but I didn't do the best job in microphone placement to actually capture that from the external mic on the kick drum. I should have spent more time in placing that. The kit itself is, we're actually not too sure what it is. We think it's a vintage Ludwig, and it's got double ply skins on the top and the bottom, which is quite unusual. Generally, you're going to have the resonant skin will be a single ply, but having double on both sides creates quite a thumping, dead almost sound, rather than a very reverberant drum. And that works quite nicely. It lends itself to the sound I was looking for, so I was happy with that. From there, like I said earlier, we then move into microphones, and I'll quickly run through the mics I used. With microphones, just remember, if you have a lot at your disposal, also take time to choose the right one. So on Toms 2 and 3, I use a good old Sennheiser MD421, classic, very well utilized Tom microphone. Brilliant things, but I've only got 2. So unfortunately, on Tom 1, I used one of these AKG C418. A great microphone to pick up attack of the drum, but unfortunately it rolls off quite high, and in that case it didn't lend itself to my end goal. But I've got to use what I've got, and in hindsight I should have used the SM57. That would have helped out a bit. The room mics were a pair of Austrian Audio OC818s, beautiful microphones. If I'm not mistaken, they're based on a C12 capsule from AKG. Where's this? There we go. Beautiful microphones, and they did a great job of the room sound. Overheads were 2 Aston Starlight microphones. Again, quite flat with a bit of a presence boost. I really enjoy these microphones. They do a good job pretty much with whatever they're used for. Also a bit of a gimmick, but it works nicely. They have a laser built in, so if you switch that on, you can see exactly where that microphone is pointing. Snare top and snare bottom, I used a 57 on both. As we all know, this is the Desert Island microphone. Very well used and extremely good at what it does. On hi-hat, I used a C1000. There we go. Kick out, I used a AKG D112. Brilliant kick microphone. I would say my favorite. And as you can see, this is tailored to what I'm looking for because it's got a bit of a boost in the low frequencies. On kick in, I used one of these guys again, an AKG C418, except I had placed it on the backside of the kick drum, so about 20 centimeters above the beater, facing down at the beater, and it does a really good job at capturing the high end attack of the beater on the kick. And yeah, so that was just a quick run through of the microphones I used. They were all fed into, I can't remember which ones went into which preamp, but either a Audient ASP880 or a Focusrite 18i20. Cool. Now we'll go through into the Pro Tools session and have a look at what sort of manipulation, if we can call it that, I did to the tracks to get them to sound the way I wanted them to. Nice. So this is Pro Tools. I'm pretty sure that most of you guys out there are aware of Pro Tools or have at least heard of it. What we're going to do now is listen to the drums in their raw form without any processing on. As you can see, all the individual channels, the processing has been bypassed. I do have a limiter or maximizer on the master channel. This is to just bring up the overall level. Before I play it, my workflow is, once I've got all the tracks recorded, I come and set levels, and then I will pan. What I like to do, especially with toms, is I pan my overheads hard left and hard right. I hear where the toms are sitting in the overhead microphones, and I'll try and replicate that on the individual microphones, also with the hi-hat. Therefore, they end up, in terms of the sonic landscape, they end up on top of each other. So tom 1 is panned at 32. If you could hear it, arguably it is panned in around 32 on the overhead channel, if that makes sense. Cool. So let's get into hearing what they sound like raw, straight off the interface and into Pro Tools. Okay, cool. It's a pretty good starting point. I was quite happy with the sound of the drums. The kick off the bat, to me, lacked some low end. I was happy with the overall mix of the toms, or the sound of the toms. The snare was nice and low, and overall it was a good starting point. My next step would then be to, because I view the drums as a whole instrument, I'll come to the master bus that I've created here for the whole drum kit, and I do some processing on it first. A bit of EQ, and then some compression, and then all the decisions I make after that feed into this master bus and are affected by it, of course. So I will bypass them one by one, and you can hear what is happening. This plugin, it's weird, it's under the dynamics section, but it's, as far as I can tell, it's an EQ, and it's just dealing with some boxiness. And then after that we have a compressor that the EQ is feeding into. So I'll push play and we can hear it toggling on and off. Cool, not massive, just takes a bit of the honk out of it. Then the compressor, this is what it sounds like and what it is doing. Massive difference. So I was really happy of the way this guy sounds. It's really cool. Just so you know, you must do some research if you're going to use a Fairchild as to what the separate parameters here do. They are all the attack and release changes for each one. And if I'm not mistaken, the hardware version only went 1 to 6 different selections, and then they've added 7 and 8. Yeah, very cool, very cool. So I will leave those on, and then we work into those. So what I've done, we can start all the way at the kick. It's a good place to start. My kick in, nice and easy, is we can listen to that. We'll put that in solo. Let's see. I'm going to have to just bypass my groups. Hold on. And there we go. So you can hear off the bat, there's a lot of high-end free content there. Not much low-end at all, but it's great for attack. And then I will bypass the EQ in and out so we can hear what it's doing. Nice. So you can see I've taken off quite a bit of the highs, the super highs. That's due to the fact that that microphone, as I explained earlier, that AKG, I think it was a 418, it's got a real high boost and it's a bit too much sometimes. So I've taken that off, I've taken some mid-range away, and then I've rolled this off a bit just in case there are lows there that'll then cause phasing issues with the out mic, the kick out mic that I want to actually capture the lows. And that is what this sounds like. This is the kick out microphone. Okay, with the EQ bypassed and not bypassed. Okay, very nice. Just cleaning it up a little bit. Then we go into a compressor for some compression. Again, it's making it a little bit fatter and controlling it slightly. Then over here, if I remember, yeah, I'm just using the EQ boost here. Sorry, it's busy storming here at home and probably shouldn't be recording, but we're all good. Just a low-end EQ boost on this kick out. Let's see how that sounds. Okay, very cool. Add some thump to it. Nice. Now, snare top. Let's have a look at what this one sounds like. Probably gonna have to bypass. So that's raw snare top microphone. I'll play all three. I'll play all three microphones so that you can hear what they sound like together. I forgot to add, I didn't say this earlier, I added another AKG, the 418, the small little clip microphone, to the snare to try and add more high end if I wanted it. And it seems that I am using it, so it was obviously a good idea. Good idea. Straight off the bat, you can tell that this microphone, which we'll get to in a second, the AKG, is adding quite a lot of high end. Okay, let's see what I've done. This is this SM57 on the top of the snare. Cool, just cutting a bit of mud. Straight away, as you do that, the low end is a bit more pronounced. It's really cool. This then is the EQ on the snare bottom, the SM57. Pretty basic, boosting some highs because I felt like it wasn't giving enough of a sizzle. Then we move on to the second snare microphone. So you'll hear how bright this guy is. So off the bat, I feel there's too much hi-hat in that microphone for my liking. So we'll see what we're doing on EQ. Cutting a bit of the tops to try and get rid of some of that hi-hat. Again, mid-range, and then some filtering. Cool. Then those three microphones, the snare mics are grouped into this snare bus here. And there we go, that one there. And they have a whole bunch of processing on it as well. First, we get into, let's see, our channel, what's going on here. Okay. This, if I remember correctly, yes, a gate. There was too much bleed for my liking, so I've tried to get rid of it, or at least expand it to make it softer. I often find that if you do a hard gate, it can make it sound a bit funny, so expanding it and just pushing the sounds back seems to work a bit better for me. We'll leave that guy on. Next, we've got some EQ, pushing some body of snare, and a bit of 10K. Cool. That's then being compressed. This compressor is it's not that musical. You can definitely hear it working. It's not working very hard here, but that's because if it does work too hard, it's really, really audible. So I generally err on the side of caution with this guy, but this is what it does. Okay, you hear that? It's creating quite a bit of attack, which is great. Over here, we have then got some more, just a bit of EQ to boost the fundamental of the snare again. Nice. What I often do, at the moment, this is just a drum kit mix, but if I'm mixing with a whole bunch of other instruments, quite often I'll boost the fundamental of the snare and then actually cut that frequency out. The other instruments, for example, the bass guitar and the electric guitar, just so that the snare has more room to cut through the mix. Hi-hat, I am doing not much to, probably just a high pass. Yep, nice and easy. Okay, now we're getting to the embarrassing Tom 1. Oh my word. So this was a bit of it was a bit devastating because I only realized after recording that this tom was not tuned very well. So here is what it sounds like raw. I should probably select a tom waveform. Give me 1 second. This is the raw tom. Not my greatest work at all. So we've got a fair bit of EQ to try and get something out of it. Okay, cleaning it up a little bit. Over here, we've got a bit of boosting in the highs and in the lows in its fundamental. Okay, it's finally turning into a bit of a tom. Again, smack. So with this, the whole project here, I wanted a lot of low end to the drum kit, but of course, you can lose clarity with that. So this compressor seems to do a good job at creating attack, if that makes sense. So that's why I've used it quite a lot. Okay, very cool. I'll do the toms quite quickly because they all follow the same sort of process. Let's listen to tom 2. So tom 2 off the bat, much better tuned, a much better tuning, and it was a lot easier to work with as a result. Okay, again, boosting some highs and the fundamental. Compression. Nice. Tom 3. Once again, pretty much the same thing happening here. Some cleaning up EQ first. Cool. Apologies if you saw that. I'm getting a call from my wife. Nice. High end, low end boost, bit of mid range cut. Again, some compression. Nice. What's next? Overheads. Will you look at that? My overheads. What I've done here is I kind of moved, I increased the level of the right hand side because I found that the snare wasn't sitting center, and you can kind of cheat the system a bit by making the other, it was quite to the left, so I boosted the right a little bit to try and pull it right. You can't completely get away from it, but it is what it is. So let's hear what's going on here. Sorry, that is the whole kit. Let's get some overheads. Let me just get something going, a proper... Okay, so you can see there, it's just very light cleaning up. That's all I was doing there. Nice and easy. We'll go back and forth. Nice. Next up, room microphones. These, I was quite happy with the way they sounded, but I have had to, actually got a bit too much low end. Have a listen to this. Okay, so the wife's really trying to phone me. These guys, I had to filter. I really enjoyed the sound of the room in total, but it was causing phasing issues with the kick microphone, so I had to get rid of the low end, and this is what I'm left with. So off the bat, one would say that without the EQ, it sounds better, and I would agree, but in context with all the other microphones, I had to make that sacrifice. And then we're running into a BF76. This was set quite hard, and it was to get a bit more vibe out of the room mics. Nice. Then we have what's happening on the master. I've got a sub emulation going, so it's pushing some low end. Then we go into some tape saturation and then some bus compression. So I'll go through and bypass them one by one. So this is the whole drum mix. Cool. So you could hear what those three did. The sub really brought out some more low end in the kick drum, The tape saturation just gave a nice like upper mid sort of boost, some more clarity and some saturation. It was really nice. And then the bus compressor just pulled it all together. So I will bypass all the plugins and we can do an A/B with everything bypassed. I just got to bring this guy back. And this is what we have. So this is before. Nice. Let's listen to after. Cool. And yeah, I really think that another call from my wife, sorry. I really think that turned out quite nicely. The drums were big, loud, lots of low end, and everything worked out the way I kind of wanted it to, except for Tom 1. So in hindsight, I should have spent some more time there. But thank you very much for watching, and if you want to go and check some other videos that I've got up on my page as well. Awesome. Have a good day.